our city's perspective, Greater Boston can't survive, let alone thrive, without a safe, reliable, affordable, and a resilient public transit system. So it's really the key to unlocking our equitable growth and our global competitiveness. And so we see it as a foundational investment when we think about current affordability and retaining and recruiting new talent.
And let's talk about the concept of congestion pricing, because, of course, our New York listeners, that's probably where their mind went. You think about congestion pricing as it had been proposed in New York. It was theoretically going to help boost revenue for the city's subways and reduce traffic, two things I'm sure Boston goers would like to see as well. Congestion pricing, as we know, in New York was pulled there at the last minute. Do you think it's a viable option for the city of Boston? Can you see that future?
So I think we're at an inflection point where we need to have all options on the table. So the governor has convened a transportation funding task force. I sit on that task force alongside other business leaders, and we are in the process right now of assessing different revenue raising policies. And that includes things like increasing fees on Ubers and Lyfts, and then really more ambitious policies, including roadway pricing and broad-based taxes. So right now, everything is on the table. All eyes are, of course, watching what's happening in New York City. I think people are eager to see if that plan does come back into play.
We'll
but
see.
When you look at Greater Boston, I think we are thinking about our existing tolling infrastructure. Where could we add new tolls? Where could we ultimately experiment with things like variable time of day pricing, colloquially known as congestion pricing? So I think all options need to be on the table.
Well, I can tell you what's happening here in New York at this point, and it's nothing as of now. As you know, it was supposed to go into effect at the end of June.
Yeah.
And the governor decided to pull the plug on it at the last minute. Okay, we know the importance of reliable public transit in cities and how important it is to the economy. And we know that it costs money. But as soon as you start to raise that revenue, people say, I don't want to pay for it. How do you get people on the same page and help them understand that, well, this money will be used for something that will ultimately benefit the entire city, including you?
Right. So I think that your intro was spot on. We are the birthplace of the American Revolution and the birthplace of public transit. So we have an aging infrastructure that has really suffered from decades of underinvestment. So we are at an inflection point again, where the good news is that we have new leadership in place at the MBTA. We call it the T here. Actually, somebody who came from the New York transit system, General Manager Phil Eng, and he is starting to restore public trust in the system. Folks are seeing that the T is making smart investments in things like track improvement, right? This is really foundational work that is very disruptive, but there is a sentiment now here in Boston that this short-term pain is worth the long-term gain. So we're starting to, I think, rebuild trust with both riders and with those in the legislature that are going to be needed to enact any of these policies that we're talking about. And I think that's step number one. I think step number two is continuing to lean in on transparency so that everybody can see the results of the current investments that are being made. And that is an uphill battle for sure, but we're starting to see the fruits of some of this labor that's happening right now.